Hi guys, it's me again, and thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome back to my channel where I review, critique, and summarize scary children's books. Today, I will be your guide to Written and Drawn by Henrietta. This is an easy-to-read comic for children by the cartoonist Liniers. In this video, I will summarize the book for you, I will talk about the story content a little bit and give that a bit of a review, and finally, as always, I'm going to talk about any horror elements at play here. So, Written and Drawn by Henrietta was published in 2015 by an amazing independent publisher called Toon Books that publishes easy-to-read comics for kids. I'm going to leave a link to their mission statement on their website in the description below. They didn't sponsor this video or anything, but I just love what they do. Written and Drawn by Henrietta is about a little girl named Henrietta that goes to create a story using her very new pencil crayons. The story she makes is a comic, and she calls it The Monster with 3 Heads and 2 Hats. In Henrietta's story, a little girl named Emma is in bed one night when a monster comes out of her wardrobe and asks her to help it find a hat for its 3rd head that doesn't have one. And they go inside Henrietta's wardrobe, which has undergone some kind of Narnian transformation so that it is huge inside, and they have a little bit of an adventure looking for a 3rd hat for this monster. Now, this is a story within a story, so we do get to see Henrietta's reactions and her cat Fellini's reactions to everything that she is writing and drawing here. What Liniers has done here is basically document Henrietta's process of creativity. And I think he's done an awesome job of capturing a kid's art and the style of a kid's storytelling. Henrietta, the main character of this book, is actually a recurring character in Liniers' comic strip Macanudo. She, Fellini, and her stuffed bear named Mandelbaum show up quite frequently in Liniers' work. I'm going to leave a link in the description below to a lovely one-panel comic series by Liniers starring Henrietta called Henrietta Reads. Liniers published it through The New Yorker, and you can see them all online. They're just these lovely sort of one-panel comics of Henrietta reading different books with different sort of themed situations going on around her. It's really wonderful. So I'll start with what I really like about this book, and number one would be the fact that Liniers and Toon Books have created this comic strip to fit really nicely within an easy reading style. Knowing where to look in a comic book and what order to read the panels in kind of thing does require a certain kind of literacy. And this book makes it really easy for kids that might not have read comic books before. There isn't an overwhelming number of panels on each page, and there's a lot of fun stuff to look at, but it doesn't really require a strict adherence to the order that you look at things in. Kids are able to open the book and kind of let their eyes roam, and even though there is a definite story to be followed here, it's not overwhelming or strict at all. So for example, if we look at this page, we can see that there is a lot of empty space to work with, and there's a lot of fun stuff to look at, but it's not necessarily overwhelming. There's not too much to look at, and you can let your eyes sort of naturally follow through. It's busy and colorful, but still makes for a really pleasant reading experience. A lot of what's going on here actually happens in borderless panels, but it's almost like Henrietta has drawn her own panels with the background here, so I think that's kind of interesting. Also on this page you can see how Liniers has gone about mimicking a child's style of drawing. I think it's really cute, and if I had had this when I was a kid, it probably would have inspired me to make art like this. I think it's a really nice touch that Liniers has drawn Henrietta's drawings with such a heavy hand with the pencil crayons. You know, when you're a kid and you have pencil crayons and you're like pressing as hard as you can into the paper, I sort of get a sense that this is what he's trying to do here. Aside from the artwork, I think that the story Henrietta tells here, and the story that Liniers tells here, is really, really cute and wonderful. There really are some laugh out loud moments in this book. It's very funny, and there are also some suspenseful moments, so it has a little bit of something for everybody. And my only dislike for this book has nothing to do with the story or the artwork or anything, but it's actually a publishing decision that was made. There are a few instances in the book where an illustration will cross over from verso to recto, from the left side to the right side of the page, and it'll just sort of go over the spine of the book like this. And it just feels like you kind of have to over-open the book in order to see the whole illustration. When I was reading it, I felt that I sort of had to peer into the binding to see everything in this image, image. And if you actually look closely, the publishers have stretched the illustration a little bit to compensate for this, but I did find it distracting. And it does happen a couple of times throughout the book, so I would say that is my one dislike. As far as horror elements go, there are some really fun, scary story parts of this book. If you're a fan of Liniers like I am, it becomes pretty obvious that he is a big proponent of scary stories for children. The story that Henrietta creates is first a monster story. And it's worth mentioning that Liniers actually wrote one of the scariest picture books I think I have ever read, and that is What There Is Before There Is Anything There. And I'm not going to say too much about it in this video because I do want to do an entire video on it. But it's pretty obvious reading stuff like this that Liniers really enjoys writing scary stories for kids. So what I like about the horror elements in this book is that there are some elements of it that are reminiscent to watching a horror movie. And comics are of course a completely different form from film, but they are filmic in certain aspects. We do get this sense of passage of time with images. So if we take a look at this page that I showed you guys before, we can see that there are some suspenseful parts that are kind of like watching a horror movie or watching a movie that will have some kind of jump scare in it. So we can see it says, "It's nighttime. Emily's in bed. I'm scaring myself," Henrietta says. "Sometimes when it's dark, Emily gets scared. You sleep with me tonight, my favorite." That's her stuffed animal. Creak, creak. What's that noise? And on the next page, the sound gets louder and louder and louder until there is a little bit of a jump scare. Fellini actually says something to Henrietta in the real world and she jumps. So we get the sense that Henrietta is actually scared by the story that she herself is writing. It's a lot of fun. And of course, inside the wardrobe, there's another monster that shows up to terrorize Emily and the friendly monster with 3 heads and 2 hats. And together they have to escape this monster in order to make it back to Emily's room alive. Although there are scary elements to this book and parts that are kind of like jump scares, like you get that suspenseful page turn kind of thing, Liniers has done something really smart, and that is to use the story within a story narrative to dissolve some of the scare factor. Readers know that this story, the monster story, is not actually the story that is happening in reality. They know that Henrietta is the one writing the story. That means that the scary elements here are like one step removed from the reader. This lessens the stakes. It makes the reader feel like, you know what, okay, like this isn't going to happen to me because it's actually a fictional story that the fictional character in this book is writing. It's a really smart way to make some scary elements feel way, way, way less scary. We see similar techniques used in scary picture books, for example. One of them that I really like is that an author will write a scary story in past tense from the viewpoint of the main character. So when kids are reading this book or getting this book read to them, they know that the main character is talking about this as if it's in the past. They know that the main character survives this encounter with whatever is going to be scary. So this is a similar kind of thing. This is a children's story that uses a story within a story to make sure that every reader knows that it's okay. And I think it's just so nice that Henrietta writes a scary story at all. It's reflective of the fact that kids do like to tell and to write scary stories. The suspenseful moments in this are kind of like training wheels for things that kids will read later, like chapter books that could deal with scarier content, stuff like Goosebumps. So this book is targeted towards kids that are in grade 2 or 3, depending on the reading level. So if you have a kid in your life that liked spookier elements in picture books and they're starting to read more and more on their own and starting to pick up books and looking for similar themes and that kind of thing, this is an excellent, excellent place to start. It's very gentle. It does have some scary elements that are really fun, but overall it's just a great, easy reader for kids that are starting to look at books like this. And if you do take a look at Toon Book's mission statement that I linked below, you'll see that there are a lot of differing opinions about kids and comic books. The book has some excellent back matter, information for parents, teachers, librarians, guardians, etc. who are going to be reading these books with kids, how to help them develop visual literacy skills, and how to help them read this book in a way that's going to be really beneficial for their literacy in the long run. Alright guys, so that is it for my review today. Thank you so much as always for watching. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a like and leave me a comment down below and let me know if you ever read comics as a kid or if you have a kid in your life that enjoys comics. I know I, for one, when I was a kid, drew a ton of comics. I was a very enthusiastic comics artist as a kid. And I also like to read comics too, of course. That might be a reason why I like Written and Drawn by Henrietta so much, is because I kind of identify with Henrietta. She likes to draw comics and she likes scary stories. I was actually at a club meeting a few years ago and they asked everybody in the room to say if they could be one character from children's literature, who would it be? And mine was like so easy. I was like, I'm Henrietta for sure. And yeah, so guys, if you want to see more of me on here, go ahead and click subscribe, and you can also follow me on various social media. The links are in the description. All right, guys, well, thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.